The Fabulous Friendship of Marcel the Sheep and the Joyful Chicks. Once upon a time, on a small farm in the middle of the countryside, there was a sheep named Marcel. Marcel was a very curious and adventurous sheep. One day, while wandering around the farm, he decided to venture into the chicken coop. Once inside, he was surprised to see some chicks playing. Marcel was fascinated by these little balls of yellow and white feathers hopping around. He then decided to join them and participate in their games. The chicks welcomed Marcel with joy, and they all had fun together for hours. Marcel felt like he had found a second family among these adorable little birds. They raced, jumped over twigs, and even tried to fly, although Marcel quickly realized that chicks couldn't fly, unfortunately. As the day went on, Marcel and the chicks grew closer and closer. They shared stories, secrets, and laughed loudly together. Marcel was happy to feel so well integrated into the group, despite their differences. He discovered that even though they were different species, they had a lot in common and got along wonderfully. The sun began to set, and Marcel realized it was time for him to head back to the sheepfold. He warmly thanked the chicks for the wonderful day spent in their company and promised to come back soon to see them again. The chicks were sad to see him go, but they knew they would see each other soon. Marcel took the way back, with a light heart and a smile on his face. The next day, Marcel returned to the hen house to meet his new friends again. The chicks were thrilled to see him and threw him a party worthy of a rock star. They had prepared games, dances, and even a delicious banquet to celebrate their friendship. Marcel was touched by so much attention and felt very happy to have such great friends. Days passed, and Marcel spent more and more time with the chicks. They became inseparable and lived incredible adventures together. Marcel got to know each chick individually, listened to their stories, and supported them through difficult times. They had become a true family united by love and friendship, and one day, a cunning fox decided to approach the hen house in search of food. The chicks were caught off guard and panicked, but Marcel, who was a brave and determined sheep, stood up in front of the fox and chased it away. The chicks were amazed by Marcel's courage and thanked him for protecting their little paradise. From that day on, Marcel was considered a hero by the chicks and all the residents of the farm. He had become the protector of the chicks and watched over them devotedly. The chicks made a statue in his honor, and every evening they sang songs of gratitude to him. Marcel was touched by so much affection and felt honored to be able to watch over his friends. And so Marcel the sheep and the chicks lived happily ever after, in joy and harmony. Their friendship was unbreakable, and nothing could separate them. They continued to have fun, laugh, and share unforgettable moments together. Marcel realized that he had found his place within this beautiful family, and that he had finally found the happiness he had always been searching for. Simba and the Magical Oasis, an adventure in the savannah. Once upon a time, in the African savannah, there was a lion cub named Simba. Simba was very curious and adventurous, and one day, while exploring the surroundings, he discovered a beautiful oasis hidden in the middle of the savannah. He was fascinated by the beauty of this magical place, with its lush green trees, clear water source, and air filled with gentleness. While walking around the oasis, Simba spotted a herd of elephants refreshing themselves in the water. He approached them cautiously, but the elephants, far from being scared by the lion cub, welcomed him warmly. They offered him fresh water and juicy fruits, and Simba immediately felt comfortable in their company. The elephants were impressed by Simba's bravery and kindness, and they decided to adopt him as one of their own. They taught him how to use his strength and speed to hunt, to identify edible plants, and to protect himself from the dangers of the savannah. Simba was grateful to his new friends and felt safe and loved among them. One day, while the herd of elephants was preparing to cross the savannah to reach another oasis, Simba decided to accompany them. He walked proudly alongside the elephants, feeling strong and brave. Together, they crossed arid plains, tumultuous rivers, and dense forests, overcoming all obstacles thanks to their friendship and solidarity. During their journey, Simba met other animals of the savannah: majestic giraffes, fast antelopes, colorful zebras. He befriended them, sharing his experiences and knowledge with them. They taught him various skills and survival techniques, and Simba became more and more skilled and clever. As they progressed, the group of friends encountered increasingly difficult challenges to overcome. They had to face a terrible drought that dried up all the water sources, a pack of hungry hyenas, and a fierce lion that wanted to claim their oasis. But thanks to their teamwork and determination, they managed to overcome all the trials. Finally, after numerous adventures and twists and turns, the group of friends arrived at their destination, a lush and peaceful oasis where they could rest and rejuvenate safely. Simba was grateful to his friends for everything they had shared and accomplished together, and he knew he had found his place among them in this haven of peace and friendship. Thus, Simba the lion cub had discovered a new, wonderful world where friendship, solidarity, and courage were the keys to happiness and survival. He now knew that he could rely on his friends to support him in difficult times, and that nothing could break the special bond that united them. And together they lived happily and harmoniously in their magical oasis in the heart of the African savannah.
Bingo and the Beach Treasures, an adventure among friends. Bingo the Cocker Spaniel was a curious and playful dog who loved spending his days at the beach. He enjoyed running in the sand, jumping in the waves, and searching for hidden treasures. But what he loved most of all was searching for seashells. Every morning, he would head to the beach, his tail wagging with excitement, to wander along the shore in search of marine treasures. He admired the different shapes, colors, and sizes of the shells he found, and each one told him a story. One day, Bingo discovered a huge shell, bigger than his paw. He was so fascinated by this finding that he decided to bring it home to show his family. Along the way, he met other marine animals, such as starfish, crabs, and even a dolphin, who offered him a show of incredible jumps. Bingo was over the moon, feeling lucky to live in such a wonderful place and to be able to share his discoveries with his friends. The next day, Bingo went back to the beach again, this time accompanied by his animal friends. They formed a team of shell hunters, laughing and playing all day long. Bingo felt like the luckiest dog, surrounded by so much love and joy. As the days went by, each trip to the beach became more exciting, with Bingo's discoveries becoming more and more amazing. One day, Bingo found a very special seashell, decorated with beautiful golden patterns. He knew that this seashell was very rare, and that he had to show it to everyone. He then organized a party on the beach, inviting all his friends to come and admire his find. The party was a great success, with games, music, and lots of laughter. Bingo felt fulfilled, surrounded by his friends who adored and cherished him. But one day, a storm broke out on the beach, sweeping away all the seashells and marine treasures that Bingo had collected. The poor dog was downcast, feeling powerless before the forces of nature. Thankfully, his friends came to his rescue, reminding him that the true treasures were found in their friendship and in the memories they had shared together. Bingo felt grateful and lucky to have such loyal friends. So, with the support of his friends, Bingo decided to start his seashell collection from scratch. He knew that the beach was full of treasures to discover, and that each new find would be an adventure to share with his friends. Together, they explored every corner of the beach, uncovering new seashells, but more importantly, strengthening their friendship. And this is how Bingo the Cocker Spaniel and his animal friends continued to live exciting adventures on the beach, searching for seashells, discovering treasures, and creating unforgettable memories. They were bound by an unbreakable friendship, capable of overcoming any challenge. And even if storms were to wash away their treasures once again, they knew that the most important thing was to share these precious moments with each other. Bingo felt like the happiest dog in the world, living his life adventurously and surrounded by love. Pingu Conquers New York, an unforgettable adventure. Once upon a time, in the beautiful city of New York, there was a little penguin named Pingu. Pingu was a very curious and adventurous penguin who loved to explore the big city and discover new things. One day, while walking in Central Park, he met a group of pigeons who told him about the Empire State Building, one of the most iconic landmarks in New York. Intrigued, Ping decided to go to the Empire State Building to see this architectural wonder with his own eyes. On the way, Pingu met many city animals, like dogs, squirrels, and even a raccoon. They all gave him advice to make the most of his trip to New York. After a long walk, Pingu finally arrived at the Empire State Building and stood in awe of its beauty. He decided to go to the top to have a stunning view of the entire city. Once at the top, Ping was amazed by the panoramic view offered by the Empire State Building. He could see all the way to the Statue of Liberty, the Brooklyn Bridge, and even Central Park. Ping felt truly small in front of so much grandeur and beauty. He took hundreds of photos to remember this magical moment forever. After spending hours gazing at the city from the Empire State Building, Pingu decided to descend and continue his exploration of New York. He went to Times Square, where he was dazzled by the sparkling lights and giant advertising billboards. Pingu felt like a little fish in a big aquarium and thought to himself that he had never seen anything so amazing. Pingu walked through the bustling streets of Times Square, watching people pass by, yellow taxis speeding by, and illuminated theaters offering unforgettable shows. He was swept away by the excitement of the city and vowed to return to New York as soon as he could. Because even though he was a little penguin, he knew that this city was full of surprises and joy to discover. And that's how Pingu the penguin had an unforgettable adventure in New York, discovering the grandeur of the city and the kindness of its inhabitants. He returned home with a heart full of memories and a head full of dreams for the future, because he knew that New York was a magical city where anything was possible, even for a small penguin like him. And who knows, maybe he will come back one day to experience new adventures and share his stories with animals from all over the world.
Olaf and the Little Snowman, a frozen adventure. Once upon a time, in the distant land of the North Pole, there was a snowman named Olaf. Olaf was a very friendly and cheerful snowman, always ready to help his animal friends in the North Pole. One day, Olaf decided to embark on an adventure to explore the vast icy expanses around him. He put on his finest scarf and set off, happy and excited to discover new horizons. During his journey, Olaf met many strange and fascinating creatures, like magical reindeer flying in the sky and playful penguins that made him burst into laughter. He also discovered majestic landscapes covered in sparkling snow and glistening ice that took his breath away. Olaf felt alive and free, as if he had finally found his place in this icy and wonderful world. But as he continued his journey, Olaf realized that something was not right. He felt a strange presence behind him, as if someone, or something, was following him closely. Intrigued and a little worried, Olaf quickened his pace, but the mysterious presence continued to haunt him, preventing him from fully enjoying his journey. Finally, unable to resist any longer, Olaf decided to turn around to see what was following him. And what a surprise it was when he saw a trembling little snowman with a look filled with sadness and fear. Olaf approached him gently and asked what was wrong. The little snowman explained that he had gotten lost in the storm and couldn't find his way back home. Without hesitation, Olaf took the little snowman by the hand and promised to help him find his way. Together, they crossed the icy expanses of the North Pole, facing snowstorms and dangers at every turn. But thanks to their courage and determination, they eventually found the snowman's way back home and brought him back safely. The little snowman was so grateful to Olaf that he offered him a precious ice crystal, a symbol of his friendship and eternal gratitude. Touched by this gesture, Olaf accepted the crystal with emotion and kept it preciously close to his heart, promising to never forget this incredible adventure and the friendship that had blossomed between them. Back home, Olaf felt fulfilled and happy. He had lived an extraordinary adventure, met wonderful friends, and proven that with courage and determination one could overcome any obstacles. And so, every year at the North Pole, the story of Olaf the snowman who went on an adventure and saved a lost little snowman is told, reminding everyone that friendship and solidarity are the greatest treasures of this world. And Olaf, he smiled as he heard these beautiful words, knowing that he had accomplished something great and beautiful that day.
Pingu and the friend on the ice floe, a warm friendship. There was nothing more boring for Pingu than being alone on the ice floe, surrounded by snow as far as the eye could see. His igloo was comfortable, but he couldn't help but feel bored. One day, as he was walking along the ice floe, Pingu decided to find something to do to occupy his mind. He started by trying to fish, but the fish stubbornly refused to bite. He then tried to carve an ice statue, but his lack of talent quickly discouraged him. Finally, Pingu had a crazy idea. What if he did some mischief to entertain himself? He entered his igloo and began to mess everything up, overturning furniture, knocking over objects, and even removing the cushions from his bed to make a snow mountain. He was so absorbed in his mischief that he didn't realize that a storm was brewing outside. When he finally emerged from his igloo, he was caught off guard by the swirling wind and snow. Frightened, Pingu started running to find his way back, but the visibility was so poor that he quickly got lost. After hours of wandering in the storm, Pingu was beginning to despair. He was cold, hungry, and felt terribly alone. Suddenly he saw a silhouette in the distance. It was another penguin who seemed to be looking for him. Pingu rushed towards him, shouting for help. The other penguin warmly welcomed him and took him to his igloo, where a delicious hot soup was waiting for him. Pingu immediately felt grateful towards his new companion. The two penguins spent a fabulous evening chatting, laughing, and playing together. Pingu realized how lucky he was to have found this new friend. The next morning, the storm had calmed down, and Pingu decided to go back home. Before leaving, he promised to come back and visit his friend as soon as possible. On his way, he thought about all the silly things he had done and promised himself not to get bored anymore because he now had someone to share his days with. From that day on, Pingu spent his time exploring the ice floe, playing with his new friend, and discovering new adventures. He had finally found a way to have fun without getting into trouble, and he felt happier than ever. And if he ever got bored again, he now knew that his friend would be there to keep him company. Now, Pingu knew that life on the ice floe was never boring again, and he was extremely grateful for it. And that's how Pingu lived happily for the rest of his days, surrounded by friends and new adventures.
Pablo, the adventurous circus panda. Once upon a time, in the bamboo forest, there was a panda named Pablo. Pablo was a curious and adventurous panda. He loved exploring his surroundings and discovering new things. One day, while walking in the forest, Pablo heard joyful music and laughter. Intrigued, he decided to follow the sound and discovered a circus being set up. Pablo was fascinated by all the animals bustling around to set up the big top and install the various equipment. He timidly approached and found himself face to face with a funny clown who gave him a big smile. "Welcome to our circus, panda friend. Do you want to help us prepare the show?" he asked. Pablo eagerly nodded and got to work with the other animals. He discovered the jugglers practicing with colourful balls, the acrobats rehearsing their impressive figures, and the clowns preparing their jokes. Pablo was amazed by everything he saw and couldn't wait to discover the final show. In the evening, the spectators flocked into the big top and the show began. Pablo was sitting in the front row, his eyes shining with excitement. The acts followed one after the other. The jugglers juggled with elegance, the acrobats performed incredible somersaults, and the clowns made everyone laugh with their antics. Pablo applauded loudly, mesmerized by so much talent. But suddenly, an incident occurred. The elephant that was supposed to perform a training act refused to obey its trainer's commands. Panic took hold of the circus, and everyone looked at each other, helpless. It was then that Pablo stood up, determined. He knew he had to act. With a confident gesture, he approached the elephant and spoke to him softly. Gradually, the animal seemed to calm down and obeyed Pablo's instructions. The audience held their breath, impressed by the calm and confidence of the panda. The number resumed, and the elephant showed itself to be docile and obedient. The show ended with warm applause from the audience. Pablo had saved the situation, and everyone expressed their gratitude towards him. The circus director offered him the opportunity to stay with them as a star of the show. But Pablo politely declined the offer. He still had so many things to discover in the bamboo forest, and he did not want to give up his life of adventures. He said goodbye to the circus artists with a heavy heart but a light spirit. He knew that he would always carry with him the memory of this incredible adventure at the circus. And who knows, maybe one day he would come back under the big top for a new unforgettable act.
Marcel, the adventurous sheep on an unforgettable journey through Paris. Once upon a time, in the beautiful city of Paris, there was a sheep named Marcel. Marcel was a very curious and adventurous sheep who loved exploring the city and discovering new places. One day, Marcel decided to go for a walk through the streets of the French capital. While walking, Marcel encountered many animals and humans who were watching him with astonishment. The children were particularly fascinated by this sheep in the middle of the city. Marcel felt a bit different from the other farm animals, but he didn't mind. He had always been a bit eccentric and used to attracting attention. During his stroll, Marcel discovered many iconic places in Paris, such as the Eiffel Tower, the Louvre, and Notre Dame. He was amazed by the beauty and history of these places. He even had his picture taken with tourists from all over the world. Marcel felt like a true star. But at the turn of a street, Marcel found himself face to face with a dangerous stray dog. He was scared, but didn't want to show his fear. He then decided to use his intelligence to escape the dog. He started running as fast as he could, zigzagging between cars and pedestrians. Eventually, Marcel managed to shake off the dog and hide in a small alleyway. Out of breath but relieved, Marcel realized he was lost. He didn't recognize his surroundings and didn't know how to find his way back. He started to panic, but then remembered the advice of his friend, the fox. When you're lost, follow the stars. Marcel looked up at the sky and spotted the North Star. He now knew which way to go. With determination, Marcel set off again, following the stars as his guide. He passed through quaint little streets, bustling markets and green parks. He even discovered a small cafe where he stopped to rest and enjoy a delicious latte. He felt at home in this welcoming city. Finally, after many adventures, Marcel found his way back and arrived safely at his farm. His animal friends were very happy to see him again and threw a party in his honor. Marcel was proud to have overcome all obstacles and made it home. He would always cherish the enchanted memory of his stroll through Paris, and now he was convinced that there was no limit to what a sheep could achieve. The culinary adventures of Pablo the Panda in Europe. Once upon a time, there was Pablo the Panda, an adorable little animal who lived in the beautiful bamboo forest in China. Pablo was very curious and loved to discover new things. One day, he decided to go on an adventure in Europe to taste the typical dishes of each country. He was so excited to discover new flavors and meet new people. His first stop was in Italy, where he tasted delicious pasta and pizzas. Pablo was in heaven. He found these dishes simply divine. Then he went to France, where he enjoyed baguette, cheese, and snails. He was amazed by French gastronomy and promised himself to come back one day to enjoy it even more. After France, Pablo went to Spain, where he tasted paella and tapas. He loved Mediterranean flavors and was fascinated by Spanish culture. Then he headed to Germany, where he enjoyed sausages and sauerkraut. Pablo was surprised by the diversity of German dishes and realized how varied and interesting cuisine could be. Pablo's trip to Europe was a true culinary adventure. After Germany, he went to Belgium, where he tasted fries and chocolate. He found Belgian cuisine to be truly delicious and full of surprises. Then, Pablo headed to the Netherlands, where he tried stroopwafels and herring. He was impressed by the richness of Dutch flavors and the kindness of the locals. After the Netherlands, Pablo went to England, where he enjoyed fish and chips and scones. He appreciated English cuisine for its comforting and welcoming aspect. Then he went to Scotland, where he tasted haggis and shortbreads. Pablo was amazed by the blend of Scottish flavours and the warm welcome of the Scots. After Scotland, Pablo went to Ireland, where he enjoyed Colcannon and Guinness. He was charmed by the Irish cuisine and the friendliness of the people. Then he went to Sweden, where he savoured salmon and köttbullar. Pablo was captivated by the simplicity and freshness of Swedish dishes. After Sweden, Pablo went to Greece, where he tasted moussaka and Greek salad. He found that Greek cuisine was full of flavours and colours. Then he travelled to Turkey, where he tried kebab and baklavas. Pablo was amazed by the richness of Turkish flavours and the generosity of the Turkish people. After Turkey, Pablo went to Poland, where he enjoyed pierogi and vodka. He loved the simplicity and authenticity of Polish cuisine. Then he went to Russia, where he tasted borscht and blinis. Pablo was fascinated by the richness of Russian flavours and the hospitality of the Russians. After Russia, Pablo went to Spain to finish his European tour. He was happy to have discovered so many delights and met so many warm people. Pablo was grateful for this wonderful culinary adventure and promised himself to come back one day to further explore the delights of Europe. And that's how Pablo the panda ended his journey in Europe, with a full belly and a heart filled with unforgettable memories.
Remy the Reindeer's Enchanted Wings. Once upon a time, in the enchanted land of Christmas, there was a little reindeer called Remy. Remy was born with an astonishing feature. He had magnificent wings that allowed him to fly and soar through the clouds. The other reindeer in his herd admired him for this extraordinary ability. One day, while the Christmas town was immersed in the excitement of Christmas preparations, Santa Claus called upon Remy. He entrusted him with a special mission, to cross the clouds to deliver an important message to the kingdom of the elves. Remy was very excited at the idea of going on an adventure and flying above the clouds. He took off, beating his wings gracefully, and soared into the sky. The clouds seemed soft and fluffy beneath his feet, and the wind gently pushed them. Remy was amazed by the beauty of the landscape that lay before him, with its snow-capped mountains and dense forests. After a long journey through the clouds, Remy finally arrived at the kingdom of the elves. He was warmly greeted by the little magical beings who were delighted to receive the message from Santa Claus. They celebrated in honor of Remy, offering him sweets and gifts. But time was passing quickly, and Remy knew he had to return home before nightfall. He bid farewell to the elves with sadness, promising to come back and see them the following year. He flew off again, speeding through the clouds, eager to reunite with his flock and Father Christmas. On the way, Remy met a small bird wounded, unable to fly. Without hesitation, he decided to help by taking it on his back. Together, they continued their way through the clouds, forming an unlikely duo, but full of mutual aid and solidarity. Finally, Remy arrived safely in the town of Christmas, welcomed by the applause and cheers of his fellow reindeer. Santa Claus was proud of him and thanked him for his bravery and generosity. Remy had completed his mission successfully, and he had become a hero in the eyes of everyone. From that day on, Remy the reindeer regularly crossed the clouds to visit the elves and other magical creatures of the Christmas kingdom. He had discovered that there were so many wonders to explore beyond the boundaries of his usual world, and he was grateful to be able to experience extraordinary adventures thanks to his magical wings. And so Remy the reindeer became a legend, whose story was told to children all over the world to make them dream and believe in the magic of Christmas. Olaf and the Magical Castle, a legend from the North Pole. Once upon a time, at the North Pole, there was a snowman named Olaf. He was very friendly and loved by all the inhabitants of the North Pole. One day, while he was walking in the snow, Olaf heard about a magical castle hidden somewhere nearby. Intrigued, he decided to go in search of it. During his journey, Olaf encountered many animals from the area, such as reindeer, penguins, and even polar bears. They showed him the way to the castle by telling him stories about its beauty and magic. Motivated by these tales, Olaf continued his quest with enthusiasm. After long days of walking through the snow and cold, Olaf finally arrived in front of the long, sought-after castle. It was immense and resplendent, with shimmering towers and ice decorations. Olaf was amazed by its splendor and majesty. Upon entering the castle, Olaf discovered a magical world where the walls sparkled with 1,000 lights and the inhabitants were magical creatures. He felt like he was in a dream and never wanted to leave. But he remembered that he had a duty to his friends and family in the North Pole. He set out to find a way to bring some of the magic of the castle with him. He met a snow fairy who entrusted him with a magical crystal ball that he had to bring back to the North Pole to promote peace and joy. Olaf thanked the snow fairy and continued on his way towards the North Pole. On the way back, he met his animal friends again, who helped him find his way through the thick snow and blizzard. Finally, after long days of travel, Olaf arrived at the North Pole, where he was welcomed as a hero by all the inhabitants. He presented the magic crystal ball to his friends and told them about his incredible adventures at the magic castle. Now, the North Pole was an even more wonderful place, thanks to the magic of the crystal ball. Olaf had become a legend, and every year the residents paid tribute to him by building a huge snowman in his honor. And that's how Olaf the Snowman found his magical castle in the North Pole and became a hero for all those living in that region of the world.
The Great Adventure of Leah the Giraffe Saving the Savannah. Once upon a time, in the African savannah, there was a giraffe named Leah. She was known to be the tallest and most agile of all the giraffes in the region. All the animals looked at her with admiration because she had always shown courage and determination. But one day, a great danger threatened the savannah. A group of ruthless hunters began capturing animals to sell to the highest bidder. It was a desperate situation, and all the inhabitants of the savannah needed help. Leah, feeling that it was her duty to protect her friends, decided to take matters into her own hands. She set out to find a way to save the savannah, despite the obstacles that stood in her way. With the help of her friends, the elephants, lions, zebras, and gazelles, she devised a clever plan to trap the hunters and prevent them from causing further harm. For days and nights, Leah and her companions worked tirelessly to carry out their plan. They dug trenches, built barricades, and set up clever traps to prevent the hunters from advancing. Finally, the fateful day arrived. The hunters approached the savannah, watching for their next prey. But they were quickly outsmarted by the cunning and determination of the animals. The trenches made them fall, the barricades blocked them, the traps caught them one by one, and ultimately they were neutralized, thanks to the intelligence and courage of Leah and her friends. The savannah finally regained peace and tranquility, and all the animals were able to resume their normal lives. Leah was hailed as a heroine, and all the savannah inhabitants thanked her for her courage and determination. She was now the greatest and most respected of all giraffes, and her name was engraved in the history of the savannah forever. And that's how Leah the giraffe saved the savannah, showing courage and solidarity. She had shown everyone that nothing was impossible when one was willing to fight for what they believed in. And from now on, all the animals in the savannah knew they could count on her in times of need.
Toby, the little tiger and explorer of the wild nature. Once upon a time, there was Toby, an adorable baby tiger who lived on a small farm not far from a big forest. Toby was very curious and adventurous, and he loved to explore the world around him. One day, he decided to venture out into the wilderness alone to see what he could discover. Toby started by walking in a lush oasis, where he discovered beautiful stretches of clear water and majestic palm trees. He enjoyed jumping from rock to rock and chasing the small fish swimming in the water. But soon he grew tired of the oasis and decided to head towards the nearby desert. The desert was a dry and inhospitable place, but Toby did not let himself be discouraged. He moved with agility in the hot sand, observing the blooming cacti and the sunbathing lizards. He was fascinated by this landscape so different from that of the oasis, and he felt proud to have explored a new environment. After spending a few hours in the desert, Toby decided to go to the large forest that was not far from there. He was immediately enchanted by the lush vegetation, the songs of birds, and the sounds of animals surrounding him. He weaved through the trees, jumped from branch to branch, and enjoyed wild berries. Toby ventured deeper into the forest, marveling at the sparkling waterfalls and sunlit clearings. He encountered playful squirrels, hopping rabbits, and even a wise owl who gave him valuable advice on the wilderness. Toby felt peaceful and happy in this natural environment. But soon, the night began to fall, and Toby realized it was time to go home. He followed the path back, reminiscing about all the wonders he had discovered during his day of adventure. He promised himself to return to explore nature as soon as possible. Back at the farm, Toby found his mother waiting for him eagerly. He told her about his adventures and discoveries, promising to show her one day the world he had explored. His mother was proud of her brave and adventurous son, knowing that Toby was destined for great things in life. And so, Toby the baby tiger continued to explore the nature around him, always in search of new adventures and fascinating discoveries. He learned to respect nature, to live in harmony with it, and to appreciate every moment spent in this wild and beautiful environment. Toby was a true child of nature, and he was ready to face any challenges that stood in his way.
Oscar the Grizzly's Perfect Den, a story of wild friendship. Oscar the bear was a big grizzly who lived in a beautiful remote forest. Autumn was quickly approaching, and he knew it was time for him to find a cozy den to hibernate in during the winter months. He set out in search of the perfect place to spend the cold season in peace. He roamed the forest from end to end, exploring every corner in search of an ideal den. He inspected caves, hollow trees, and mounds of earth, but none of the places seemed to suit him. Frustrated, he decided to ask his animal friends for help. He first met Rosie the fox, who offered to share her den with him. But Oscar was much too big to fit in her small burrow. Next, he encountered Charlie the beaver, who offered to build a wooden den for him. But Oscar preferred a natural den, closer to his wild habitat. Finally, it was Lila the owl who showed him the perfect spot for his den. It was a beautiful hollow in an old oak tree in the heart of the forest. Oscar was delighted by this welcoming spot and decided to set up his winter shelter there. He immediately started to arrange it with leaves, branches, and moss to make it snug and warm. Once his den was ready, Oscar prepared to hibernate. He nestled deep into his cavity, closed his eyes, and began his long slumber. During the winter months, he dreamt of great adventures and beautiful encounters in the forest. In the spring, when the first rays of sunshine came to caress the forest, Oscar woke up feeling great. He came out of his den, stretched his big muscular arms, and went in search of food to regain his strength after his long rest. Thanks to his perfect den, Oscar had spent a peaceful and comfortable winter. He knew he could always rely on his animal friends to help him in times of need. And for that, he thanked them from the bottom of his heart, offering them delicious wild berries as a sign of friendship. Marcel the Sheep Detective, The Case of the Thieving Mice. Once in a peaceful farm located in the heart of the countryside lived a little sheep named Marcel. Marcel was a curious and mischievous sheep, always on the lookout for adventures and new discoveries. One day, as he was walking in the green fields, Marcel heard a strange noise coming from the barn. Intrigued, he decided to approach to see what was happening. As he got closer to the barn, Marcel heard whispers and muffled laughter. He quietly slipped inside and discovered a group of mice planning to steal the farm's crops. Marcel was astonished by what he had just seen. He knew he had to act quickly to warn the other farm animals. He hurried back to the barn where he found his friends, the cows, pigs, and chickens, peacefully chatting. Marcel told them about what he had discovered in the barn, and all the animals were shocked. They decided to come up with a plan to prevent the mice from stealing the crops. The animals gathered for a council and decided to set a trap for the mice. They prepared a large quantity of tempting cheese and placed it inside the barn. The mice were quickly lured by the enticing smell of the cheese and fell into the trap. The farm animals managed to capture them and take them far away from the farm. Thanks to Marcel and his friends' intervention, the farm was saved from the thieving mice. The crops were preserved and the animals could continue to live in harmony. Marcel was proud to have solved this mystery and saved the farm. He realized that even a small sheep could have a big impact when animals work together. Since that day, Marcel was respected by all the farm inhabitants for his courage and determination. He had become a true legend among the animals and was always ready to help his friends in times of need. Marcel the sheep had proven that with a little ingenuity and solidarity, one could overcome all obstacles. And so Marcel and his friends lived happily and peacefully for the rest of their days.
Leon of Wisdom, in the Enchanted Forest, Pablo the Panda, and the Importance of the Nap. Once upon a time, in the enchanted forest of Pandaland, there was an adorable panda named Pablo. Pablo was a very mischievous and energetic panda, but he had a little problem. He hated taking naps. Every time his parents told him it was time to rest, he would pout and try to find a way to escape this chore. One day, after a long day of playing with his friends in the forest, Pablo returned home with heavy eyes and a tired body. His parents reminded him that it was time for a nap, but Pablo categorically refused. He decided to sneak away into the forest to escape his fate. He slipped between the trees and bushes, but soon fatigue caught up with him and he peacefully fell asleep under a tree. In his dream, Pablo found himself in an imaginary world filled with colors and fantastical creatures. He met a wise owl who explained to him the importance of napping to recharge his batteries and stay healthy. Pablo then realized that he had been selfish by refusing to rest and promised to make an effort to listen to his parents in the future. Back in reality, Pablo woke up suddenly and found his worried parents by his side. He told them about his dream adventure and promised to be more cooperative in the future. His parents were relieved and proud of their son, who had finally understood the importance of taking a nap. From now on, Pablo took regular naps and felt much more energized and happy. He spent time playing with his friends, but also knew when it was time to rest to be fully fit the next day. His parents were delighted to see their little panda growing up and becoming more responsible. And that's how Pablo the panda learned the importance of taking naps and listening to his parents. He continued to have wonderful adventures in the enchanted forest of Pandaland, but this time taking care of his body and mind. The inhabitants of the forest admired Pablo's wisdom and maturity, as he had become a true example for all the young pandas in the region, and they all lived happily and well-rested for the rest of their days.
The precious friendship between Toby and the white kitten. Once upon a time, in the dense jungle of India, there was a tiger named Toby. Toby was a very curious and adventurous tiger, always on the lookout for exciting adventures to experience. One day, while walking in the jungle, Toby spotted a shiny and colorful ball of yarn. Intrigued, he approached and took it in his mouth. The yarn was so soft and comfortable, Toby decided to take it with him wherever he went. Unfortunately, one day, while walking through the bustling streets of London, Toby accidentally dropped his ball of yarn. He panicked and frantically searched for his precious possession. He questioned passers-by, searched in shops and parks, but to no avail. The ball of yarn seemed to have disappeared without a trace. Toby was disheartened. However, he decided not to lose hope and continued to explore the streets of the city, hoping to find his beloved ball of yarn. He asked for help from the city animals, who advised him to go to the Central Park, where domestic animals often gathered. With a mix of excitement and anxiety, Toby went to the park, hoping to find his lost ball of yarn there. To his great surprise, upon arriving at the park, Toby saw a small white kitten playing with his ball of yarn. The kitten seemed enchanted by the softness and vibrant colours of the yarn. Toby approached slowly, his heart beating, and timidly asked the kitten if he could have his yarn back. The kitten, surprised, replied that he thought the yarn was abandoned and apologized for taking it. Toby smiled and thanked the kitten for its honesty. He explained how important the ball of yarn was to him and how much he missed it. Touched by Toby's story, the kitten agreed to give him back the ball of yarn in exchange for a promise to come visit him from time to play together. Toby accepted with joy and gratitude. The two new friends spent the rest of the day playing together, laughing and having fun like children. Since that day, Toby and the little white kitten became inseparable. They roamed the city together, discovering new places and meeting new friends. Toby realized that sometimes you have to lose something precious to realize the true value of friendship. He is grateful to have found his ball of yarn, but most of all, to have found a loyal friend with whom to share his happiness and adventures. And so, Toby the tiger and the little white kitten lived happily ever after, and formed a friendship that lasted forever.
The Magical Adventures of Teddy Bear in China. Once upon a time, in a small village in the heart of the countryside, there was a teddy bear named Teddy. Teddy was the loyal friend of a little girl named Emma. They were inseparable and shared many adventures. One day, Emma decided to give Teddy a trip for his birthday. She carefully packed him in a pink suitcase and gave him a small backpack filled with provisions. Teddy was very excited about the idea of going on an adventure. Nuno's journey began towards China, a distant and mysterious country. He took the plane for the first time in his life and was amazed by the view he had from up there. Once arrived in China, Nuno's was greeted by pandas who showed him the wonders of their country. He walked through the rice fields, visited the Great Wall, and discovered the Forbidden City. Nuno's was amazed by so much beauty and culture. During his stay in China, Nuno's met many exotic animals, such as dragons, foxes, and monkeys. He tasted delicious dishes like stir-fried noodles, Cantonese rice, and spring rolls. Nuno's even learned some Chinese words to be able to communicate with the locals. He made many friends who invited him to participate in traditional festivals and ancestral ceremonies. Nuno's was amazed by the cultural richness of China. He attended dance, music, and martial arts shows. He visited ancient temples and lush gardens. Nuno's felt at home in China and knew he would cherish precious memories of this trip for the rest of his life. But soon the time to return came, and Nuno's had to say goodbye to his new friends. The return by plane was filled with nostalgia, but Nuno's was happy to be reunited with Emma. He enthusiastically told her all about his adventures in China, showing her pictures and giving her souvenirs. Emma was delighted to see that Nuno's had experienced such fabulous moments, and she was grateful for the trip he had offered her. Nuno's was a contented teddy bear, and he knew he would forever keep the wonderful memories of his stay in China in his heart. And so it was that Nuno's, the teddy bear, lived an extraordinary and unforgettable adventure. The Giraffe with a Big Heart, Friendship at the Heart of the Jungle. Once upon a time, in a distant jungle, there was an adorable little giraffe named Leia. Leia was a solitary giraffe and had always dreamed of making friends with whom she could play and share unforgettable moments. But unfortunately, the other animals in the jungle seemed to fear her because of her large size and long neck. One day, Leia decided to step out of her comfort zone and go in search of friends. She wandered through the jungle for days, trying to approach other animals, but in vain. They would run away at her approach, leaving poor Leia feeling frustrated and sad. However, she refused to be discouraged and continued her quest, determined to find friends who would accept her as she was. After several days of wandering, Leia finally met a group of curious and friendly animals. They were made up of a mischievous monkey, a talkative parrot, a playful panda, and a wise elephant. They welcomed Leah with open arms, offering her warm smiles and sincere encouragement. Leah was overjoyed and knew that she had finally found her long-awaited friends. The days passed, and Leah and her new friends spent a lot of time together, exploring the jungle, playing fun games and sharing exciting stories. Leah was thrilled to finally be able to be herself, without being afraid of being rejected or judged. She finally felt accepted and loved for who she was. One day, while exploring a remote corner of the jungle, the group of friends stumbled upon a small, lost and hungry tiger. Leah immediately felt compassion for the poor tiger and decided to help him. She offered him food and water and reassured him by promising that he would be safe with them. The tiger, grateful, decided to join Leah's group of friends. He quickly became a valuable member of their small gang, bringing some excitement and adventure into their daily lives. Leah was delighted to see that even a creature as different as a tiger could be accepted and loved by her friends. The days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months. Leah and her friends lived happily, surrounded by laughter and happiness. Each day was a new adventure, full of discoveries and joy. Leah was grateful to have found such wonderful friends, and she knew she would never be alone again. One day, while walking in the jungle, the group of friends heard a distress call. They rushed towards the source of the noise and found a small bird stuck in the branches of a tree. Leah, without hesitation, used her long neck to reach the bird and set it free. The bird, grateful, warmly thanked them before flying off into the sky. The other animals in the jungle had also heard the story of Leah and her friends, and they came to visit her to show their admiration. They were impressed by Leah's generosity and kindness, and offered her their friendship. Leah was touched by their gesture, and promised them that she would always be there to help them in times of need. The days passed, and Leah became a true legend in the jungle. She was known as the giraffe with a big heart, always ready to help others and spread joy around her. She was the friendly mascot of the jungle, loved and respected by all. And so, Leah and her friends lived happily ever after, surrounded by the love and friendship that united them. They knew that, thanks to their solidarity and kindness, nothing could ever separate them. They had found the true treasure of life, friendship, and it was the most beautiful gift that the jungle could offer them. The Adventures of Teddy Bear in Paris. Once upon a time, there was a little teddy bear named Teddy, who lived in the bedroom of a little girl named Leah. Teddy was very curious and dreamed of discovering the world beyond the walls of Leah's room. One day, while Leah was at school, Teddy decided to venture outside to explore the charming city of Paris. Leaving the house, Teddy Bear was dazzled by the beauty of the cobbled streets, grand monuments, and smiling people. He felt very small in the middle of this big city, but he was full of courage and enthusiasm to explore his surroundings. He began to wander through the streets, greeting passers-by and stopping to admire the magnificent architecture of the buildings. Teddy Bear discovered the lush gardens of the Tuileries, where he met squirrels and birds who told him stories about the city. He then discovered the Louvre Museum, where he fell in love with paintings by great artists such as the Mona Lisa and majestic sculptures. Afterwards, Teddy Bear strolled along the Seine, enjoying watching boats pass by and the illuminated bridges at night. His stroll took him to the Eiffel Tower, where he climbed the many steps to admire the stunning view of the city. He felt so small next to this tall lady made of metal, but he was so happy to have been able to see it. Further on, Nounours went to Montmartre, where he discovered charming alleyways, street artists, and delicious French pastries. In the evening, Nounours found himself on the Champs-Élysées, where he savoured a delicious crepe under the sparkling lights. He felt so lucky to have been able to discover all these treasures of Paris in one day. He promised himself to come back one day to explore even more of this magical city. In the end, Teddy Bear returned home, tired but filled with wonderful memories. He snuggled up in Leah's bed, waiting for her return. When Leah came back home, Teddy Bear told her all about his adventures in Paris, and she was so happy that her little stuffed bear had been able to experience such an adventure. And so, Teddy Bear and Leah shared 1,001 magical stories thanks to Teddy Bear's stroll through the streets of Paris.
Kiko the Koala Adventures in Australia. In the beautiful land of Australia lived a little koala named Kiko. He had always been curious to discover the wonders of his country, and one day he decided to embark on an adventure to explore the beaches and forests that surrounded him. Armed with his small pouch and his courage, Kiko set off, hopping from branch to branch in search of new horizons. His first destination was the beach, where he discovered the warm and fine sand that stretched as far as the eye could see. Kiko was fascinated by the beauty of the waves gently crashing on the shore, and he decided to walk along the beach, breathing in the sea air and listening to the sweet song of the seagulls. He even came across some crabs casually walking around, and he felt happy and free like never before. After exploring the beach, Kiko decided to venture into the forest, where he encountered many strange and wonderful creatures. He came across kangaroos joyfully jumping between the trees, brightly colored parrots singing loudly, and even a wombat who winked at him conspiratorially. Kiko felt like he was in a fairy tale, surrounded by so much life and good cheer. At the turn of a path, Kiko met a family of koalas who warmly welcomed him. They offered him to share a meal of eucalyptus leaves, the favorite food of all koalas. Kiko accepted with joy, and he spent a delightful time exchanging stories and laughs with his new friends. He felt happy to have met other koalas like him, and he promised to come back soon to see them. After a busy day exploring the beaches and forests of Australia, Kiko returned home with his heart filled with happiness and adventures. He peacefully lay down in his tree, lulled by the gentle whisper of the wind in the leaves, and drifted off to sleep already dreaming of his next escapade. Because Kiko had understood that the world was vast and beautiful, and that there were so many wonderful things to discover and explore, and he was determined to never stop traveling and marveling at the beauty of the world around him.
The Teddy Bear's Star Adventure in the Enchanted Forest. Once upon a time in the Enchanted Forest, there was a kind teddy bear named Nounours. He loved spending his nights watching the stars and constellations in the starry sky. Every evening, he would settle comfortably on his little rock and look up at the endless universe. Nounours loved spotting the different constellations and trying to guess their shapes. He liked to imagine that the stars were shining for him, like little friends in the sky. His favorite nights were the ones with a full moon, as the silver glow bathed the forest in a magical light. One evening, as Teddy Bear was observing the stars, he noticed a strange and incredibly beautiful constellation. It was a majestic dragon with immense wings and shining eyes. Teddy Bear was captivated by the beauty of this constellation and decided to give it a name, Drago, the celestial dragon. Every night, Teddy Bear searched for the Drago constellation in the sky, and every night he imagined fantastic stories about this celestial dragon. He pictured incredible adventures with monsters to face, princesses to save, and treasures to discover. One evening, as Nunuz was watching Drago in the sky, he suddenly had an idea. What if he went on an adventure to find the real Drago and live a true, heroic quest? He imagined himself traveling through distant lands, facing dangers and overcoming challenges to reach his goal. Without hesitation, Teddy Bear got up from his rock and headed towards the mountain, where he thought Drago was hiding. He walked for hours, crossing rivers, climbing hills, and braving the wind and rain. But he didn't lose hope, because he knew that Drago was waiting for him at the end of the road. Finally, after a long walk, Teddy Bear arrived at the top of the mountain, where he discovered a huge rock in the shape of a dragon. It was there, under the sparkling stars, that celestial dragon Drago was hiding. Teddy Bear was amazed by the sight and determined to finally meet him. He approached the rock and in a soft voice called Drago. And suddenly, a brilliant light burst from the rock, and the celestial dragon came to life before Teddy's astonished eyes. Drago then spoke to him in a deep and powerful voice and explained that he was the guardian of the stars and had come to offer him a star as a gift. Nunuz was filled with gratitude and happiness. He thanked Drago and took the star between his paws, admiring its beauty and brightness. He then understood that the real adventure was the one we experience in our hearts, and that the stars were there to remind us of the magic that inhabits our world. Thus, Teddy Bear returned to the enchanted forest, the star shining by his side, and told all his friends about the incredible adventures he had experienced. And every night, he continued to observe the stars and constellations with a radiant smile on his gentle plush bear face, and Drago, the celestial dragon, watched over him from the starry skies.
Remy the Reindeer and the Adventure in the North Pole. Once upon a time at the North Pole, there was a young reindeer named Remy. Remy was a very curious and adventurous reindeer, always in search of new discoveries and exciting experiences. One winter evening, as night fell on the ice floe, Remy decided to venture out alone into the polar night. He was so fascinated by the beauty of the aurora borealis that he didn't see the time passing and quickly found himself lost in the vast whiteness of the snow-covered tundra. He started to panic as he realized he no longer recognized any landmarks, and his footprints were covered by fresh snow. Remy began to run in all directions, desperately seeking a way to find his way back. But the deeper he ventured into the dark night, the more alone and vulnerable he felt. Just as he was beginning to lose hope, a soft glow appeared on the horizon, like a distant star guiding his steps. Intrigued, Remy decided to follow this mysterious light, which led him through magical and fairy tale landscapes. Along the way, he encountered fantastical creatures such as goblins, elves, and even unicorns, who helped him overcome his fears and rediscover his confidence. Thanks to their support and friendship, Remy felt increasingly brave and determined to find his way back. Finally, after hours of wandering and adventure, Remy managed to find his way back home. He was welcomed by his friends, the reindeer and Santa Claus, who had been worried about his disappearance. Remy then told them all about his incredible adventure, filled with twists and extraordinary encounters. Santa Claus was so impressed by Remy's courage and determination that he decided to entrust him with a special mission for the upcoming Christmas festivities. And so it was that Remy the reindeer became the leader of Santa's reindeer team, tasked with guiding the magical sleigh through the starry sky to deliver gifts to children all around the world. Thanks to his experience and wisdom gained during his adventure at the North Pole, Remy became a respected and loved reindeer by all, and his legend lived on for generations to come. And every year, at Christmas, the stars shone a little brighter in the sky in tribute to Remy the reindeer, the hero of the polar night.
The Adventures of Pingu and his friends on the ice floe. Once upon a time, on a snow and ice-covered ice floe, there was a little penguin named Pingu. Pingu was a solitary penguin who spent his days exploring the ice floe in search of friends. Unfortunately, all the other animals on the ice floe seemed to ignore him. Pingu felt very alone and sad, but one day, everything was about to change for him. As he was walking along the ice floe, Pingu heard a small cry coming from a hole in the ice. He approached cautiously and discovered a small seal stuck in the ice. Without hesitation, Pingu began to dig around the seal to free it. Once the seal was saved, it started making small cries of gratitude and danced with joy. Ping had finally found a friend on the ice floe. The seal, named Sammy, was grateful to Pingu for saving his life, and the two animals quickly became inseparable. Together, they went on adventures on the ice floe, exploring beautiful places and making new friends. They met a group of penguins who welcomed them warmly and offered to play fun games with them. Pingu and Sammy spent hours playing with the penguins, laughing and having fun like never before. They became friends with these adorable birds and promised to come back to see them regularly. As the days passed, Pingu and Sammy explored every corner of the ice sheet, encountering seals, walruses, and even polar bears. Each new encounter brought joy and happiness to Pingu and Sammy, who felt more and more in harmony with the nature surrounding them. The ice floe had become their home, a place where they felt safe and surrounded by love. Pingu was no longer alone. He had found a family on the ice floe. And as they were walking one day, Pingu and Sammy discovered a lost and scared little penguin. Without hesitation, they rushed to him and comforted him. The little penguin explained to them that he had gotten lost while looking for friends to talk to. Pingu smiled at him and told him that he had found the best friends in the world on the ice floe. With the help of Pingu and Sammy, the little penguin found his way back to his group and was warmly welcomed. Pingu was proud to have been able to help another animal, and he felt filled with happiness. The ice floe was now the place where Pingu had found the friendship and happiness he had always sought. And this is how Pingu, Sammy, and the little penguin became the best friends in the world, exploring the ice floe together and living incredible adventures. They now knew they could rely on each other and that nothing could break their beautiful friendship. Pingu had finally found his place on the ice floe, surrounded by love and joy for eternity. And they lived happily ever after, forever and ever. Simba and the Elephants of the Oasis, an unexpected friendship. Once upon a time, in the heart of the African savannah, there was a lion named Simba. Simba was a curious and adventurous lion, always seeking new discoveries. One day, while roaming the savannah in search of food, he discovered an oasis hidden at the bottom of a lush valley. Intrigued by this oasis, Simba decided to explore this mysterious place. Approaching the oasis, Simba was amazed by its beauty. The ground was covered with fresh grass, and the trees were laden with juicy fruits. But what caught Simba's attention the most were the elephants lounging in the clear water of the oasis. The elephants seemed so peaceful and joyful that Simba decided to approach them to get acquainted. The elephants, initially surprised to see a lion approaching them, greeted Simba kindly. They offered him delicious fruits and suggested playing with them in the cool water of the oasis. Simba, delighted by the warm welcome of the elephants, happily accepted to play with them. The elephants and Simba spent hours playing in the oasis. They chased each other, threw fruits, and had fun like children. Simba felt so good in the company of the elephants that he completely forgot about the passing time. At sunset, as the savannah was ablaze with warm colors, the elephants and Simba gathered around an improvised campfire. They shared a delicious meal and told stories under the twinkling stars. Simba felt so happy and grateful to have met the elephants. The next morning, Simba woke up next to the elephants, his heart filled with gratitude for this amazing adventure. He understood that friendship could be born between animals as different as himself and the elephants. Before heading back to his own land, Simba promised to come back and visit the elephants of the oasis. And that's how Simba the lion became friends with the elephants of the oasis. Whenever he needed comfort and joy, he would return to the lush valley to meet his friends, and together they would play and share unforgettable moments. Simba had finally found a place where he felt at home, surrounded by love and kindness. And it was in this magical oasis that he lived happily ever after.
The Magical Birthday of Pingu the Penguin. Once upon a time, in a small snowy village at the South Pole, there was an adorable little penguin named Pingu. Pingu was a very cheerful and sociable penguin who loved spending time with his friends and family. Today was a very special day for Pingu because it was his birthday. He was very excited to celebrate this day with all those he loved. In the morning, Pingu was woken up by his parents who sang happy birthday to him. He was so happy to receive so much love and attention from them. After a delicious breakfast of fish, his favorite, Pingu went in search of his friends to share the big news with them. He first went to see his best friend, Leo the seal, who gave him a huge hug and wished him a happy birthday. Then he went to see Bella the sea lion and Tim the seagull, who were both delighted to celebrate this special day with him. Pingu decided to organize a big party in an ice cave near the village. He spent the day preparing decorations with the help of his friends, who were all very excited to party all night long. There were fish garlands hanging from the ceiling, flickering candles, and even a buffet filled with delicious frozen treats. When evening came, all of Pingu's friends were present. The penguins, seals, sea lions, and seagulls danced, sang, and laughed together. Pingu blew out the candles on his fish-shaped cake and made a secret wish for a year full of happiness and adventures. Suddenly, a dull sound was heard outside the cave. Everyone froze, wondering what was happening. Pingu cautiously made his way to the entrance and discovered an incredible surprise. It was a dazzling fireworks show, offered by his parents for his birthday. The colorful lights illuminated the night sky and made the bewitched eyes of all the guests sparkle. The party continued until the early morning, filled with laughter, dancing, and love. Pingu felt so grateful to have such wonderful friends and a loving family. He knew that this day would remain etched in his memory forever as one of the most beautiful of his life. As the sun rose slowly on the horizon, marking the end of the party, Pingu realized how lucky he was to be surrounded by so much love and happiness. He fell asleep peacefully, his heart overflowing with joy and gratitude for this special day that would be etched in his memory forever. And so ended Pingu the penguin's unforgettable birthday, a magical day full of surprises.
Leah the Giraffe, explorer of Australia, an adventure in the land of kangaroos. Once upon a time there was a beautiful giraffe named Leah who lived in the African savannah. One day she heard about Australia and its extraordinary kangaroos. Intrigued by these hopping creatures, Leah decided to go on an adventure and discover this distant country. After a long plane journey, Leah finally arrived in Australia. She was amazed by the diversity of landscapes and the richness of fauna and flora. But what interested her the most were the kangaroos. She set out to find them and observe them in their natural habitat. Throughout her encounters, Leah met Joey, a young kangaroo who was curious and playful. Together, they explored the Australian bush, hopping from hills to hills and discovering the secrets of nature. Leah learned a lot about kangaroos, their way of living in groups and moving by bouncing. One day, while they were walking near a lake, Leah and Joey had an unexpected encounter. They crossed paths with a group of dingoes, formidable wild dogs. Leah and Joey had to show courage and ingenuity to escape them, hiding behind bushes and using their agility to outsmart the predators. After this eventful adventure, Leah and Joey decided to go back home, promising to see each other again soon. Leah was grateful to have been able to experience such a thing in Australia, and she knew she would forever keep the memories of this extraordinary adventure in her heart. Back in Africa, Leah told her friends about the wonders she had discovered in Australia. She spoke to them about kangaroos, the outback, and dingoes, and they all listened to her with fascination. They were impressed by Leah's courage and determination, as she had managed to overcome the dangers to live a unique experience. Since that day, Leah had become a source of inspiration for all the animals of the savannah. Her curiosity and thirst for adventure were admired by everyone, and she had become a true hero in the eyes of her friends. Leah was proud to have been able to share her journey to Australia with them, and she knew she had lived an unforgettable adventure. And so ends the story of Leah the giraffe, who braved dangers and overcame obstacles to discover Australia and kangaroos. A tale full of courage, friendship, and discoveries, which will remain engraved in the memory of all who experienced it. Because Leah the giraffe was an adventurer at heart, ready to explore the world and have extraordinary experiences. May her story serve as an example to all those who dream of embarking on adventures and discovering new horizons.